This is the Purple Elephant Show. I am your host, Casey Phoenix, and this is a brief correction before this actual episode starts because sometimes I watch my episodes, sometimes I don't because I don't like watching myself on camera, just so you know, and I don't like listening to myself either. But when I watched this particular episode, I noticed that I said 5.7 and 5.5 during this episode when I was talking about Goodreads and Amazon. I meant 4.7 and 4.5 is what I meant. And I'm pretty sure that most people will get what I meant, but it was something that just really, really, really irritated me. So I decided to record this quick little bit and insert it into the beginning of the show. And the correction is there and on the record. So there we go. Enjoy this episode of The Purple Elephant Show. Thank you. Welcome to The Purple Elephant Show. I am your host, Casey Phoenix, and this one I don't have many notes for. And this won't even be a long show. I seem to be on a roll recording these shows that they seem to be pretty short, which is a good thing. Or these episodes, I should say. As mentioned, a good story doesn't need an agenda. What I mean by that, okay, let's see. Let me pause for a second and explain why I'm going there. And also, while I'm articulating everything, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate it. And if you have any comments on this afterwards, feel free to throw them in the comments section. Feel free to also follow on Twitter, Real TPES, Instagram, The Purple Elephant Show. Now, the reason that I did this episode was because I've noticed how when it comes to entertainment, when it comes to Hollywood stuff, and I live in Los Angeles, they like to have an agenda when doing a story, when writing stuff. And for you, those who don't know, I write stories. I write short stories. I know how to write scripts. I have literally boxes of scripts and files of short stories and all types of stuff. So yeah, I'm part of the club. One thing I can tell you is that people have been saying, okay, well, when they get ready to write a script, we have to have this, we have to have that, we have to have somebody who is physically handicapped. We have to have someone who's part of the LGBT community. We have to have someone who's African American. We have to have someone who's Latin. We have to have someone for this. We have to have someone for that. We have to talk about Me Too. We have to do all of this stuff, all of these agendas that they're inserting into the writing. For me, as a writer, as a creator, I've never said to myself when I'm writing something, when I write a short story or a script, I've never said, oh, I have to have this, check the box. I have to have that, check the box. I have to have that, check the box. I don't look for that when I personally write. What I look to do is to tell a good story. One of my stories, short stories, which is under a pen name that I have, it has a 5.7 rating on Goodreads, and I think a 5.5 rating on Amazon. And when people read the stories, and I love reading people's comments about the stories that I've written, they're like, oh my goodness, I can so relate to this person, or oh, I love this person's family and everything else. When I wrote the stories, I wrote them based on the characters that came about. And also, if you have solid characters, you don't have to worry about writing a good story. If you have solid characters, the story will write itself for you. The characters will write the story for you. With one of my characters, when I created her, she, yeah, obviously I'm the writer, so I'm putting the words to paper and stuff. But the character that I created, she's solid. And when I throw her in situations, I don't have to think as hard how she will react in those situations because she's a solid character. And she tells me the words to write because she's her own person. I put them on paper, and people like the stories of her and the stuff that happens with her family. The An agenda is the byproduct of a good story. A good story should not be the byproduct of an agenda. Do you, for those who are looking at me in my little glass rectangle, and I'll say it again. An agenda is the byproduct of a good story. A good story should not be the byproduct of an agenda. So when you go in, if you have a good story, if there's an agenda within it, it'll bubble to the surface on its own. There isn't anything that you have to do to get it out there in front of people to make it a good story. But if you go in saying, oh, I'm going to do something in regards to women's empowerment or whatever, why make that the agenda? Why not just create a strong female character and then let the women's empowerment part bubble to the surface? And I think that's the problem, where people who are doing stuff in entertainment, they're doing it backwards. And also they're alienating a lot of people too, especially in the comic book industry, because I see people in the comic book industry, they complain all the time, like, why did you have to do this? Or why did you have to do that? And not just the comic book industry. I'm still of the opinion when it comes to The Little Mermaid that wasn't a huge deal for me, where The Little Mermaid was cast as black. That as a black person, African American, or whatever you want to call us this week, that wasn't a win for me. To me, that was intellectually and creatively lazy, is how I look at it. The character is the character. And I know they change characters all the time. To my understanding, M in James Bond was originally a man. At least that's what I was told. I haven't looked it up, but I'm pretty sure that was the case. And the color of the characters have been swapped out before too. But I honestly believe if a character is created a certain way by someone, that's how the character should stay. If you want another black character, then go ahead and create it. Who said that Ariel had to be the only Little Mermaid? There can't be another black mermaid somewhere? Is it just all about Ariel and her kingdom? Why not create a totally different story and do that and let that mermaid be black if you want to do that? So that really wasn't a win, like I said, for me. But as I said before, when for that part, that's creatively and intellectually lazy on those type of things. But with the agenda part, the agenda is a byproduct of a good story. The good story will have cannot be a byproduct of the agenda. That's what I'm looking at. So I didn't do a lot of notes on that. This is just one of my little, I guess you could call it rants or whatever. And the only reason I decided to do this episode is because I've noticed lately, like I said, a lot of people in the comic book industry complaining about how they're being alienated by people pushing agendas in comic books and stuff like that. So hopefully eventually the parties, the creators in those industries will wake up and get back to focusing on a good story versus focusing on pushing an agenda. Do the good story and let the agenda be the byproduct. Don't do the agenda and let the good story be the byproduct. Because if the good story is the byproduct, it'll get lost in the agenda and it'll never bubble up, usually. So just my thoughts. Again, feel free to leave comments. Let me know what you think. Like, share, subscribe. Thank you for listening on the streaming platforms. Thank you for watching on YouTube and Daily Motion. And that is all I got. ThePurpleElephantShow.com, @RealTPS, TPES on Twitter, The Purple Elephant Show on Instagram. Be blessed.